All right, today we're going to unpack a very specific framework for looking at history, one that comes directly from a Christian curriculum. Now, our goal here isn't to debate it, but to really understand how it's designed to work as a lens for interpretation. So let's jump right in. So, before you can figure out how this framework sees the world, you have to understand its definition of history itself. It starts with this massive, fundamental question, and honestly, the answer it gives sets the stage for everything else. And there it is. Right off the bat, you can tell this isn't about memorizing dates and battles. It frames all of human history as one single epic story. The core idea is that humanity is fallen, and God is actively working to redeem it. This central drama is really the engine that drives this entire worldview. Okay, so how do you actually interpret everything through that spiritual lens? Well, the source material calls its method a biblical worldview. This is the specific framework it uses to make sense of the past, the present, and even the future. So what does a biblical worldview actually mean, according to this source? Think of it as an all-encompassing pair of glasses. The idea is that you can't just put them on for religious topics. It's meant to be a complete system for interpreting everything: politics, science, art, history, all through the truths found in the Bible. These 5 beliefs, they're the absolute non-negotiable pillars of the whole framework. They pretty much function as a checklist for looking at history. Is an event glorifying God? Does a society treat people as if they're made in God's image? This is how those big abstract beliefs are supposed to become a practical tool for analysis. Now, to make the definition even sharper, the source material does something pretty smart. It sets up a direct contrast. It helps you understand this worldview by showing you exactly what it considers its polar opposite. And that makes the key differences incredibly clear. And here's that opposing worldview: secular humanism. From the perspective we're examining, the main takeaway is that God is completely removed from the equation. In this view, human reason, our own ethics, and science become the ultimate authorities. It just fundamentally shifts the center of gravity from God to humanity. This side-by-side chart really gets to the heart of it all. You can see that on every single major question: who has authority? What is truth? What's our purpose? The two worldviews give completely different answers. One sees truth as absolute and unchanging, found in Scripture. The other sees truth as relative, something that we create and that can change over time. These aren't just small disagreements. They lead to 2 totally different ways of making sense of the world. Okay, so with that foundational worldview set up, the curriculum then gives you a kind of practical toolkit for analysis. It boils down to 3 main themes or pillars that you can apply when you look at any historical event. Yep, it all comes down to 3. 3 main pillars, or you could call them analytical lenses. The idea is that if you look at any moment in history through these 3 lenses together, you'll get a complete, multi-layered understanding from this specific biblical perspective. The first pillar is a big one. You could argue it's the most important: the idea that everything is spiritual. It says that what we see on the surface of history, the wars, the elections, the inventions, that's only half the story. There's always a deeper spiritual reality at play. According to this framework, behind the curtain of day-to-day life, there is this constant, unseen spiritual conflict going on. Events here on Earth are seen as reflections or even battlegrounds in a war between a kingdom of light and a kingdom of darkness. For someone using this lens, that's not just a metaphor, it's the primary reality that is shaping everything we see. The second pillar might seem a bit more conventional, but it's given a very specific theological twist. This one is all about the impact of geography. So in this framework, geography isn't just an accident of geology. The physical world, the mountains, the rivers, the climates, is seen as a stage that was purposefully designed by God. They aren't just features, they're the divinely set backdrop for the human story. So the way cultures and societies develop and spread across the globe is interpreted as part of God's plan unfolding on that very stage. And that brings us to the third and final pillar, which reframes the whole concept of economics. It argues it's not just about money and resources. It's really about our purpose and our responsibility. This pillar connects economics all the way back to the book of Genesis, to something called the dominion mandate. That's the idea that humanity was commanded to be good stewards of God's creation. So this turns economics into a kind of moral test. Is a nation's wealth built on faithfully taking care of resources, or is it built on exploiting people and the planet? According to this worldview, God is the ultimate judge of an economy's justice. Okay, so that's a lot of theory, but how does this worldview actually apply to a real person in a real historical moment? Well, the source material uses the story of the British politician William Wilberforce as its prime case study. You see, William Wilberforce was basically a superstar in British politics. He was wealthy, incredibly well-connected, and he was on a fast track to a comfortable, powerful career. But the source material points to this moment in 1785, a profound Christian conversion that just completely changed his path and gave him a new and much, much harder mission. And here we see the core principle that, according to this framework, drove his entire life's work. His fight against slavery wasn't just a political move or a humanitarian effort. For him, it was a deep theological conviction. He believed that slavery was a national sin because it violated the biblical truth that every single person is made in God's image. And this timeline shows that this was not an easy fight. After his conversion, he spent more than 20 years, introducing bills to end the slave trade, and he was defeated over and over again. The source presents his incredible persistence not as just political stubbornness, but as a conviction fueled by his faith. And then, in this incredibly dramatic ending, the bill to abolish slavery throughout the British Empire finally passed just 3 days before he died. It was the culmination of his entire life's mission. So, after laying out the worldview, the 3 analytical pillars, and that powerful case study, the curriculum brings it all together for one final, overarching takeaway about the nature of history itself. And this really is the final takeaway. In this worldview, history isn't random, it's not chaotic, and it's not a cycle that just repeats. It's a linear story. It has a clear beginning, creation, and a definite end. Every event, big or small, is seen as a chapter in that story, orchestrated by God as part of his grand narrative of redemption. And the source material ends by turning this historical lens toward us, right here in the present day, leaving us with this question. It's really a prompt for the learner to take the framework and the example of Wilberforce and apply them to the challenges we see in the world today. It's a final thought designed to connect the past directly to the choices we all face right now.